Hello, I'm Elle Edwards, the Mindset Geek from gotoelle.com, and welcome back. Now, in today's episode, we are thinking about the question that you are answering. Now, the context of this in the Mindset Minute, of course, was what is the question that you are answering with your life today? But I want to explore this a little more widely because I want you to think about what question are you answering with your big goal or project. Now, all throughout October, of course, we are getting you prepped and ready to write your book, whether that be fiction or non-fiction. My focus is more on non-fiction with this question today. However, it does apply to fiction as well, for reasons I will explain in a moment. However, if you're watching this or listening to this and your big goal or project isn't writing a book, it's something else, this still applies. So all of this week, we're going to be thinking about planning. And I don't mean planning a book, for example, in the usual way. I'm not going to give you advice about mind mapping and table of contents and all that sort of stuff. Because yes, that's all really valuable advice. But really, my focus is on the mindset work. My focus is on helping you help yourself by using your brain, because your brain is amazing and it can do wonderful things. So all of this week, last week we focused on the mindset piece, getting you prepped and ready in terms of the things that might trip you up. This week, we are getting you ready with brain stuff that's actually going to help you plan out your project or your goal. So like I say, the very first part of that is going to be this question about your question. So if you're writing a non-fiction book, I want to encourage you to think about what is the one question that you are answering with your book. Now, there will be different bits and pieces as you go along. You're going to touch on different subjects, but ideally your non-fiction book wants to answer one question. Now, the really clever thing, and we're going to go into this more tomorrow when we talk about using the reticular activating system to help you with the planning process. So I'm not going to go over that today. However, by starting to ponder on what that question might do and what that question might be, your brain will start suggesting things. You put it into your mind that this is what you'd like to know, and your brain will start to help you out. So if you don't know what the question is that your book is going to answer yet, it doesn't matter. Just by watching or listening to this episode, putting that idea out there, your brain will start to help you. That's really cool. And like I say, we will dig into this more tomorrow. However, if you're writing fiction, you might be thinking, well, how does this apply to me? And it does apply. I would argue, and I'm not the first to argue this, that most, probably all works of fiction, whether that be books or films or series is on the telly, they all answer a question, or they all dig into a theme at least. So I'm thinking, for example, about I don't know if any of you saw the TV show Bodyguard. It was very popular here in the UK, finished a couple of weeks ago at the time of recording. And it was great. It was really good. It was gripping and it was well written. And then when they revealed the final and actually, I'm just realising, maybe I shouldn't say that because otherwise that will be a spoiler alert. Okay, I'm not, okay, quickly caught myself there. In case you're watching this or listening to this and you haven't seen it and you're in the middle of watching it, I'm not going to tell you about the ending actually. That would be really bad. However, I can't even give you my example now. But what I will say is when there was the final reveal, when we found out who one of the baddies were in particular, it made me go, okay, that was the message that these writers were actually trying to get. This is the point of the whole series. Now, the point of the whole series, yes, was to be entertaining and gripping and to make a really good TV show. But I guess coming at this from a writer's perspective, it was like that's what they meant. Okay, that was the message they were trying to give us as a result of this series. And I'm not going to tell you what that message was. I was about to tell you, but I'm just realising I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't watched it. And if you can watch it, if you've got access to the BBC iPlayer, I would watch it because it's a good series. And one of the Stark guys from Game of Thrones plays the main character, which is just an aside. But if you like Game of Thrones, it's not the same genre, but whatever. But even if you're writing fiction, my point is you will still have a theme. Now, sometimes people start with a theme in mind. Some writers will tell you that there was a particular message or a particular question that they wanted to answer through their fiction. So for example, when I wrote The Itchy Soul, it originally was planned out as a non-fiction book about happiness. And I started to plan it out and try and write it as non-fiction. Like, it's a bit boring. I wonder if we can make this into a story. And I did. And the whole, I guess the question behind the Itchy Soul is, what does it mean? What is happiness? How do we do happiness in day-to-day life? That was kind of the question that I was answering. And that was the journey that April, the main character, went on, was to find out this quest for happiness. So I've done it in my own writing, but not every writer and not every book that every writer ever puts out is going to be starting with a question. But I just want to put it to you as an idea, as a starting point for you. What is the question that your book will be answering? Now, thinking about this in the wider context, of course, because I'm very mindful that not everybody who engages with these podcast episodes will necessarily be writing a book right now. That's our focus for October, of course, but it might not be everybody's focus. Not everybody's going to write. More's the pity. But if you've got a different project or a different goal, I would dare to suggest that actually your project or your goal is also going to answer a question. So for example, if your goal is to create a brand new course to teach your audience something, what is the question, or what is the question that your course or your teaching hopes to answer? I can't answer that for you, but I would say that consider it. Think about it, because part of the problem is with books and with courses and with lots of content, really, we put things out there and we make them too complicated. We try and fill it with all of the things, probably because we have so much information in our brains and we want to be really helpful and serve lots of people. And so we try and give them everything. What if you didn't give them everything? What if you instead considered, what is the one question that I'm going to answer with this piece of training or this book or this piece of content? If your goal is to write some content to share with the audience or record podcast episodes, what is the one question that you are hoping to answer with whatever that goal or project is that you are working on? That's my question for you today. That's my thing for you to ponder on, because I think by starting there, you actually force yourself to simplify a little bit, to make it less complicated. And yes, this does mean that this first project, this first book, this first course, whatever it is you're creating, whatever that goal is, it will lead on to future stuff. And I said to one of my clients a couple of weeks ago, think of this as your first book. And I would say the same to you as well. If you've never written a book before, the temptation is to try and put all of the things in there. Don't. What is the one question you're going to answer with this, your first book? If it's your first book, or if it's your next book, great, fine. But this book, what is the one question? And it will lead to further questions, which could be further books or further courses or further pieces of content, whatever that looks like with the context for you. But keep it simple. Don't try and deliver all of the things at once, because you'll overwhelm people. And consider it like this. I know you want to help. I know you are here to serve. You want to make a difference. You will make more of a difference by keeping it simple, because it makes that path less complicated. Keep it simple. Give people an action. They will do the work. It will make a difference. And then you give them the next question and the next action. And that way then you can actually make more of a difference and impact more people. So in terms of actually doing, as I say, telling you one thing and doing the same thing, my one action for you as a result of this podcast episode is to think, what is that one question that you are going to answer with your book or your project or whatever it is that you are working on? That's your next action step as a result of engaging with this piece of content. And I feel like I should remind you, for the next few weeks, I'll be reminding you of this. In November, I am working with a small group of 30 people to help them get their books written, whether it be their first book or their next book, fiction or non-fiction. If you're itching to write a book and you know that you would do better with support from Mindset Geek like me, but also in community. Community is a powerful thing. I'm bringing together just 30 people, and if that sounds like something that would be of benefit to you, I would love you to come and join us. Go to rentaboss.uk. It will then redirect you to the right page on the Go2L website, rentaboss.uk. Find out more, and I would be delighted to work with you in November. But there are just 30 spaces. So if you're watching this middle of October, don't delay, because I should mention the very first thing we're going to do is we are going to have some one-on-one time, just you and I. And ideally, I'd like to get that booked in the last week in October, because the purpose of that session is to look at what your November looks like and see, plan concrete steps on how you can get this book done within the context of real life. So that's the other incentive, aside from the fact there are literally just 30 spaces, because I can only split myself. I can't, if 100 people signed up and I'm going to do 100 one-on-one calls, there aren't enough hours in the day. But leaving that aside, the other benefit for getting started now and signed up today is that we can have that one-on-one time sooner rather than later and get you ready for a fabulous writing November. Anyway, that's rentboss.uk. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Smile. Have yourself a delightful day. I have been Elle from geek.com. Take care. Bye-bye.